Welcome to IBC Date Night. My name is Amy, and we are so glad that you are joining us tonight. Tonight we're going to explore what compatibility looks like within your marriage. And we hope that you get to connect with your spouse, experience some encouragement, and of course, have a laugh or two. Your main goal is to make space to connect with one another. And since you're here, you're already doing that, so give yourself a high five. Now, our goal with Marriage at IBC is to empower you to develop a thriving, long-lasting, Jesus-following, God-revealing marriage as He transforms each of you. We want to encourage one another to rely on the redeeming power of Christ as you love your spouse, family, and communities, and help you build an authentic and transparent relationship with others. Now, whether you're newlyweds or been married 50 years, whether you've been married one time or more, this space is for you, and it is designed for you to take at your own pace. There will be 5 opportunities for you to connect with your spouse, where you pause the video, turn to one another, and discuss the questions. Now, you can take as little or as much time as you want to answer these questions, and so depending on that, it should take you about 45 to 50 minutes. If you're joining us tonight, you have taken the first step in giving a very valuable gift to your spouse. Just as the Bible tells us to be kind and tenderhearted toward one another, we hope that this is a both uplifting and positive experience for you. Before we get into everything, let's actually take a moment to meet our guest couples. Our first couple is Tom and Rosalie. We are so glad to have you with us. So could one of you tell us a little bit about yourselves and also the best unexpected surprise you've ever received?
Yeah, like you said, Tom and Rosalie Rue, we've been married 31 years.
You got that right?
Yeah, we've been at Irving Bible Church about 18 years. We have one son, Tyler, graduated from A&M recently and lives and works down in Austin, Texas.
Fantastic.
And like our best surprise, or my best surprise, is really easy. Maybe about 25 years ago or whatever, Tom surprised me with a puppy for Christmas. And we're down at my in-laws. We've just arrived there. Everybody's standing around acting weird. Mm-hmm. And I hear this little bark. Oh. It's like, oh my gosh, you got me a puppy. And just, enriched our life so much. Loved it.
That's amazing. What a sweet gift. Good job, Tom.
Thank you.
So we also have Joe and Shireen here with us. So let's turn to Joe and Shireen.
Yeah, so Joe and Shireen Rajadurai, we've been married for about 19 years now. And we've been in IBC a little over a year. We have 2 children. Johan, he's 18, is a senior in high school, and Lydia, who's in 8th grade. Go ahead.
Now, is there anything unique about your marriage that you might like to share?
We had an arranged marriage in India, so you'll probably get to know more about that as we go on. But
okay.
I think the surprise, because that question was unexpected, it was probably 2018. We were in India over the summer vacation, and we were getting ready to come back to the US, and usually Joe goes on ahead, and me and the kids, we stay back for a couple of more days. I don't always enjoy that. I like to go back with him. And we had some issues with our flights that particular year, but he was on the laptop trying to fix our flights so that, he could go on ahead because he had work and we were going to come back later. And I don't know what happened in the night after I went to bed, but when I woke up in the morning, he showed us the tickets and he was going to travel back with us. And I still remember when I got up and I found out that he was like, did you see? So, we're going back together. It was just a couple of days here and there, but it just mattered a lot that we were going to come back together to Dallas as a family, and I wasn't going to stay and he was going to come ahead. So that meant a lot.
That was obviously very meaningful.
It was, yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you both for sharing. Now it's your turn at home. Pause the video and take a moment to share with your spouse the best unexpected gift you've ever received. Okay, let's outline the topic that we are discussing tonight. Most of us probably got married because of what we did know about each other. We were compatible, we had things in common, or if you had an arranged marriage, you got married because of what your families knew about each other. But as time goes on and you do grow in your marriage, you begin to think, perhaps I married a stranger. Rosalie, have you ever felt that way before?
Yes, very quickly. Sorry, he's not strange,
No.
but he
yes.
sometimes is a stranger.
Mhm.
There's a quote by Stanley Auerbach, and he says, "We never know who we marry, we just think we do." And, you know, over time, I mean, marriage changes us, first of all, but then children change us, careers change us, age, we found out, changes us. And it is, you feel like you married a stranger.
Yeah, and I think even a lot of times it's not really major things, but it's just day-to-day habits, idiosyncrasies. If you're a night person, a morning person, activity levels, more of an introvert, extrovert, those things you a lot of times do not realize till you get into marriage. And like Rosalie said, with health and children and age, those things can change also. When you think you know someone, you look 5-10 years later and you look back and say, wow, you know, things aren't quite what I expected.
Well, that brings up a great question that I would love to ask. So I'm going to ask Joe and Shireen first. So, what unknowns surprised you? Like, what maybe wore off after the honeymoon? Were there personality things or idiosyncrasies that kind of surprised you or caught you off guard?
Well, because our marriage is arranged, you know, we do have a lot of similarities in our cultural background, our families, just the places where we come from. There is a lot of similar and common ground. But for me, I'm more of a doer. So the way that I showed him love and I showed that I cared was just by doing stuff. You know, I would cook and I would clean, and I keep a clean home, and I expected that those were things which he would appreciate a lot and just love me all the more. But it turns out he's more of a words of affirmation a person. He loves that. He loves to feel validated, and he loves to hear me speak words of life and of truth and of encouragement into everything that he does for the family. It took me a few years to catch that, probably like a decade or more. And so now I'm a little bit more aware and cognizant of, okay, it's not just about the doing, which is good, but it's also about speaking truth and speaking life into who he is as a person. So I think that was it was a bit of a culture shock for me because I'm such a doer, and I just thought that that's where he appreciated me so much. So it was a big thing.
So great. Shireen, how about you, Joe? Is there anything that surprised you or something not you
It was
did?
a little bit more lighter thing. You know, I was when I was younger, just interacting with her before marriage, I thought she'd be very outgoing. She'd like to go out. She'd like to hang out. You know, maybe go out, visit friends, do that kind of, be very social. As soon as we got married and we got home, I realized that the external appearance and what she really was the exact opposite. So she liked to be a homebody. She just liked to cook. In fact, that she would cook 3 meals a day used to stun me in the early days. That why is she doing all this? So that was what surprised me about her.
Those are really good. Thank you. How about you guys? Was there anything that you anticipated that maybe came out differently?
Yeah, probably a little bit different than Shireen. I thought Rosalie would be a little more domestic, a little more focused on things around the house. She was very career focused and into that. So I really took on more of that role and did that. It's probably about a year into our marriage, I really realized, you know, that wasn't her strength. I mean, her favorite thing to make for dinner is reservations. So, you know, it was just different than I expected and what I thought it might be, and we've had to adjust, you know.
That's true. I think for me, just a couple of simple things come to mind. He moved into the place I was living at when we got married, and I come down one day and all the magnets on my fridge have been removed and put in a drawer. I was like, what? Yeah, exactly. So it was like, who is this person? You know, and looking back, I can see his parents' refrigerator and my parents' refrigerator. You can see which ones they came through, and it just like, He loves when you leave a room to shut off the lights, whether I'm in it or not. And it's like, really? And he would prefer that I do that. And it's like, that is just like, it's just not quite what I thought it would be.
Well, so once you realized those things, that Rosalie likes to make reservations and Tom hid all your magnets, how did you respond? How did that make you feel when that happened?
Yeah, I think for me, some of it was just inconvenience, something simple like the light thing. It's like, really, do I have to do that? Some of it was annoying. He's very talkative, and so sometimes that's exhausting for me. I mean, really, and he processes out loud, so that in and of itself, it's like I get confused in terms of where his stream of thought is. And so a variety of experiences and all of that.
Can probably be frustrating and overwhelming.
It can be. I'm almost a little, not bait and switch, but a little disillusioned. Like, oh, you think you're getting one thing, you sort of get it home, so to speak, and you're like, oh, this is a little different than I expected. So just sort of grasping with, okay, what does this mean now, and how do we start working towards, a positive solution?
Now it's time for you guys at home to reflect. Once you see the questions on the screen, pause the video and discuss those questions and come back when you're done. All right, welcome back. We're ready for our next question. So back to you, Joe and Shireen. So once you discovered these issues and differences, how did you navigate these, and was it natural for you to adjust and adapt in how you address them?
Want me to go first? Okay. I think it was, I think like Rosalie said, it was frustrating, sometimes inconveniencing. But then I got reasonably good advice from my parents who said, the larger goal is, you are married and you have to figure things out and you have to make some compromises. And that really helped. The principle of compromise and adjusting, because these are trivial issues at the end of the day. So that helped, that perspective helped me approach that in a more positive light, and that has helped me navigate.
That's great. Joe, what about you, Shireen?
So I like to think of myself as a martyr because I'm amazing. I do everything and take good care of him. But there's this quote which I saw a few years ago that everybody wants a marriage that is filled with love, but nobody wants to die to self.
Oh, wow.
And I think I am trying to be very cognizant of the fact that when I die to self and I allow Christ to live in me, I can start to love him and the way that Christ wants me to love my husband. So it's a process on the good days and the bad days, but it's just about dying to self in everything that we do.
Well, that's good news. That's gospel news. So thanks for sharing that with us, Shireen. So how about you guys? How have you learned to navigate this and adjust and adapt to one another?
Yeah, I think a couple of things for me. One is having a network of other people that are doing this or further ahead, be that small group, be it other resources that are out there. I have a friend for 21 years. Every Thursday we have lunch together. He's a few years older, has a couple of kids older than mine. The wisdom and insight and bouncing things off, you feel like we're not alone. And a lot of the things I've learned, I think I've applied, have come through those type settings and relationships.
And I think for me, there's been a couple of things that I've tried to focus on. One is identifying the blessings that come with the unexpected. I expected Tom to be a little bit more career-oriented, and he's had a great career. It's been amazing. But I thought maybe we would start our own business or something like that. And instead, thinking through, like, him having more of a life balance that he has enriched our family life in amazing ways, So that's really awesome.
It's your turn again. What point was most helpful for you? For me, it was hearing from Shireen about dying to self, because I completely identify with her and never wanting to give up my wants and my desires for the good of our relationship. But so what is the most important thing for you? Once you see the questions again, pause the video and discuss, and we'll see you when you get back. Welcome back. We have one last question. I'm going to turn to Tom and Rosalie and ask you guys, How have you seen God work these issues in your life? Have you seen Him change you, or the Holy Spirit grow things in you as you've navigated these issues?
Yeah, I think early on, like a lot of couples, we had some significant troubles. I came into marriage almost treating Rosalie more like a roommate. Just here and there, sports, weather, not being as authentic, deep, and really connecting at a heart level. And I think as we worked through that, what we really got a passion for is helping other couples do that. At IBC, being involved with premarital counseling, or for 4 or 5 years, we led a newlywed small group. And now being involved in marriage at IBC, I think just being able to learn and then apply that, it's really given us a commonality and a mission that's taken those early struggles and actually really improved our marriage, through the years.
What a tremendous blessing. How about you, Rosalie?
I think there's a couple of things that come to mind. The first is, it's taught me to value Tom for who God created him to be, as opposed to having him fit into my mold. I'm seeing God's creativity in ways that I never expected. And then the other thing, it's really elevated for me the concept of marriage. Genesis talks about how the two shall become one. And we've really thought about that in terms of God creates something new. And it's really true. I mean, even something simple where we're trying to solve a problem, he has one idea, I have another, but when we understand what's driving that, we come to a whole new solution that we never even expected.
That's amazing and beautiful. Well, how about you guys? Where have you seen God work, or where have you seen Him change you?
I think the main takeaway for me was, as my faith grew in the Lord and I walked closer with Him, a lot of the issues in our relationship began to take a backseat. Or the spirit of compromise, the spirit of, looking over differences, that began to come out more strongly. Because as my faith grew, it was easier to forgive. It was easier to forget. It was easier not to be controlling. All of which were things which created trouble in the first place. So that was the main thing that I saw God work in our lives.
So about 10 years ago, we were going through a rough patch, and I was reading Gary Thomas's Sacred Marriage, and the entire book is based on the premise, what if God intended marriage to make you holy and not make you happy? That has stuck with me for the last decade. I've bought multiple copies of the book and shipped it off to people, and I give away my copy. But I think what God and the Spirit of God has really convicted in my heart is the stripping away of pride. I think he really just stripped that away layer by layer over the years, and he showed me who I really was and how He loves me. And if God can love me, then what has my pride got to do in this relationship? So the closer we both grow to God, we are growing towards each other. Wow. And that has really been a significant part of our growth as a couple. And I hope God will use us in the process, to encourage others and to be a source of encouragement. Yes.
Well, you have encouraged me today for sure, so all of these things are great. It's so important for us to talk with one another about the work that God is doing in our lives. And so take time to discuss with your spouse how God is using these issues to bring about His glory in your life and in His marriage. The fruits of the Spirit are a great place to start, so you can check those out in Galatians 5. Our discussion tonight reminds me of Philippians 1:6, that He who began a good work in you will perfect it until the day of Christ. Not only is God working in your life, He's working in your spouse's as well. And He desires for you to see your spouse through His eyes, through eyes of faith, that see that He is working in them to make them more like Christ. Now we have one more interaction for you at the end of the night, but before we do, let me ask you two things. First of all, we would love to hear your feedback on how this date night went. We had a lot of fun, and we hope that you did too. Second, as you were processing and digging into these questions, you may have found yourself tackling some heavy issues that you didn't expect. And we want you to know that if you did, we are here for you. We have marriage mentors and pastors who would love to connect with you and walk with you as you are processing all of this. Now, when you go, I want you to do two things. First, compliment your spouse and tell your spouse how you see God is working to make them more like Christ, because he is always perfecting us until the day of Christ. He has not abandoned us, and we are so thankful. And then second, end by praying with your spouse. Seek the Lord together as you are growing together and as you are seeking for your marriage to glorify God. And lastly, we want to ask you to, if you haven't joined us already, join the Marriage at IBC Facebook page. We would love to have you in our community. Thanks for being here with us tonight. We're so glad you joined us. Have a great evening.